You probably think you have a pretty good idea of how banks make money. Seems pretty simple, right? It's a story about interest rates. But turns out that story is missing a huge, and I mean huge, expensive chapter. See, banks are facing this kind of hidden crisis, and their solution, well, it's not just some new piece of tech. It's about to completely reshape the entire industry. So, let's get into it.
So, I'll just ask you straight up. Do you really know how your bank turns a profit? Most of us have this simple picture in our heads, but as we're about to see, that picture is, well, it's completely out of date.
All right, so first things first. Let's talk about the classic model, the profit story that honestly worked just fine for decades.
Yeah, the traditional story all revolves around this one key metric, net interest margin, or NIM for short. It's the classic formula, you've heard it before. A bank pays you, let's say, 3% interest on your savings, then it lends that same money out to someone else at 8%. That 5% difference, that's their margin. Simple, right? And for a really, really long time, that was it. That was the whole game. If a bank could just manage that interest rate spread, they were profitable. End of story. But that's just not the whole truth anymore.
Because here's the big shift. The focus isn't just on that simple interest rate spread any longer. The new reality, the crisis that's been kind of hiding in plain sight, is all about these massive, exploding operational costs that are just eating those margins alive.
And that brings us to the real villains of our story. We're going to look at the two major forces that are quietly, but very effectively, draining bank profits. So, meet the two silent margin killers, the cost of acquisition and the cost of service. Think of it like this. First, how much does it cost the bank just to get you to walk through the door as a customer? And then, what's the price tag for keeping you happy year after year? These costs have absolutely skyrocketed, mostly because of fierce competition and, let's be honest, our own rising expectations for instant digital everything.
So, let's just start with that first one, the cost of acquisition. Banks are spending an absolute fortune on digital ads, on partnerships, on these complex verification processes, all just to sign you up. And the numbers, they are genuinely shocking. Look at this. On average, a bank might spend up to 2,500 rupees. That's just to get one person, to open a basic savings account. Oh, but it doesn't stop there. You want a credit card? That cost jumps to 4,000 rupees. That's the price of all the marketing, the credit checks, the onboarding, the whole shebang.
And for a personal loan customer, it can be as high as 6,000 rupees. These are just massive, massive upfront costs for the bank. So here's the really crucial point. With costs this high, a bank often makes zero profit from a new customer in their first year. Profitability gets pushed way out into the future. And honestly, it's not even a guarantee. And now for the second killer, the cost of service. And this one isn't a one-time hit. No, this is a constant, slow drain. As you can see on this chart, every single interaction has a price. Every time you call the help desk, that's a cost. You walk into a branch, that's another, much bigger cost. And all that manual work behind the scenes to service something like a loan, that adds up to over 1,000 rupees per year. Now multiply that, customer by customer, year after year.
Okay, so right about now, you're probably thinking, surely banks have tried to fix this, right? And yeah, you'd be right, they've tried. But the old solutions, they just aren't cutting it anymore.
I mean, over the past 2 decades, they've tried everything. They closed branches, they centralized all their back office stuff into these shared service centers, they digitized some of the basic processes. And look, each of these things gave them a temporary boost, a nice little one-time gain in efficiency. But at the end of the day, they were just Band-Aids. The core problem didn't go away. And that problem is that critical functions, like underwriting loans, handling weird exceptions, complex customer service, all of that still required expensive, manual human intervention. A human-centric model simply cannot scale profitably when your margins are this thin. It just can't. And this is where the story takes a really dramatic turn. Faced with a deep structural cost problem that the old solutions couldn't fix, banks are now turning to a completely new rulebook. And you guessed it, that rulebook is being written by AI. This quote right here, it really gets to the heart of it. This isn't about just another tech upgrade, like getting new computers. AI represents a fundamental change to the entire operating model of a bank. It's like a complete rewiring of how decisions are made and how work actually gets done. I mean, just look at this transformation. In every single one of those high-cost areas we talked about, AI provides the solution.
That expensive mass marketing, it's replaced by predictive targeting that knows who to talk to. Manual onboarding, that becomes instant and automated. Those high-cost call centers, they're being replaced by 24/7 conversational AI. It's a systematic attack on every single one of those margin killers.
And let's just zoom in on the cost of service for a second. AI completely flips the model on its head. Instead of waiting for you to call with a problem, it allows for predictive service, solving issues before you even notice them. It automates common fixes and provides intelligent 24/7 support, which drastically cuts down on the need for expensive human agents.
So, what does this all mean for the future? Well, we are literally witnessing a fundamental rewrite of the rules of banking, moving from a system that was powered by people to one that's powered by AI.
And this, right here, is the ultimate takeaway. The real battle for a bank's survival and its success is no longer being fought over tiny fractions of a percent in interest rates. No, it's being fought on the battlefield of operational efficiency. And on that battlefield, AI is the decisive weapon.
So this new AI-driven bank, it promises to be faster, cheaper, more predictive. It's a pretty radical shift, and it's happening right now as we speak. Which really just leaves us with one final and pretty crucial question. Is this hyper-efficient bank of the future really being built for you?